So let's just start with like cognitive restructuring. It's like retraining your brain to mitigate destructive thoughts and behaviors by training yourself to be psychologically flexible. So people talk about being physically fit. One of the things I like to talk about is being mentally fit, right? And so what does that mean? I actually have a definition. It's the ability to be consciously present and to process information rationally. Rationally is the key word, and without bias. This empowers you to respond quickly to changing circumstances through committed actions anchored in your values. Okay, so what does all that mean? Peter Haberl really has had a big impact on my life. Peter is he was the senior sports psychologist for the USOC, US Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And one time I was in an event at the USOC in Colorado, and it was like they had a gathering of high performance experts from around the world. I think there was 60 of us in the room, and it was everybody from the New Zealand All Blacks to military tier 1 special operations units to Major League. It was crazy. But it was kind of like the heads of performance, right? And the first time I ever met Peter, he's talking on stage and he tells this story. And you could have heard a pin drop. I mean, there's like a small closed room deal. You got to like the best of the best are all in the room, right? And he says that he shows this picture of this guy, Sir Chris Hoy. Sir Chris Hoy is the greatest Olympic cyclist of all time. Of all time. The most Olympic gold medals ever. And when they ask, so there's this myth that the best in the world don't feel pressure. It's totally false. When they asked Chris what it felt like to race in an Olympic finals, he said it felt like he was going to the gallows. He was going to get executed. I have worked with athletes that are Olympic gold medalists, that are world champions, Super Bowl champions. And like for me, when I was coaching Veronica Campbell Brown, she's 8-time Olympic medalist from Jamaica. When you train for 4 years for an event that may take 22 seconds or less, there's a lot of freaking pressure. As a matter of fact, when she was in the bird's nest in China, there was so much, the light was so bright that there wasn't a shadow on the track. Think about that. That's insane. And so, like, the best in the world do feel pressure. Everybody is going to feel this. You're going to have uncomfortable thoughts, emotions, and feelings. But if you're open to them, and if you anticipate that it's going to happen, how you feel doesn't dictate how you perform. If the outcome of an event is uncertain and important, you should expect to feel uncomfortable. I'll say that again. If the outcome of an event is important and uncertain, you should expect to feel uncomfortable. Tonight, I am pitching 30 angel investors. The outcome is important and uncertain. I should expect to feel uncomfortable. But a couple of things: I train, I prepare. My team is always like, some of these people were never in sports, and they're like, Erik, you were like maniacal about preparation for everything. I'm like, and they've started dubbing it the performance mentality. It's like, because when you show up, you owe it to the person that you're dealing with and yourself to be the most prepared. And if it doesn't work out, at least you can go back and say, I did my best. That's one. So, anyways, I just want you to know that, like, there's going to be a flurry of emotions, whether it's about your children, whether it's about work, whether it's about a loved one. But just because you have these feelings doesn't mean you have to respond in a certain way. Okay. So, how do we become more psychologically flexible? Number one, you have to know your purpose. Mark Twain says the two most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day you found out why. And so it's really important that you define your purpose. Why do you exist? Most people have never sat down and actually thought, like, why am I here? If you don't have a rudder, you're just going to be going all over the place. And for me, mine is to, this is just personal, to use my talents to honor God and impact other people. At the end of the day, if I'm on my deathbed and I used whatever I was given to help other people, like, that's all that matters, right? I know a lot of coaches that have won championships. I have a box full of rings from championships, but it sits I don't even know where it's at. But some of these guys, when they are on their deathbed, they alienated their entire family and loved one. They're gonna have nobody there. And I didn't want that to be me. Right. And so, like, for you, you could be like, how can my talent, skills, and abilities be used to help impact others? These are questions you could ask. Where do I find joy and fulfillment? How does my current job leave me unfulfilled? Is there work that would bring me fulfillment? What would I want my obituary to say when I die? These are some things you can kind of sit there. I know these are heavy topics, folks. So, like, just think through it. Like,
Or write your own obituary. That's something
oh,
that's something me and my husband did a while back. It's actually time for us to redo it, but we've written our own obituaries. Like, what do we want said about us?
that gives you clear intentionality then to how to direct your actions and behaviors. The next thing is identifying your values. You know, core values are non negotiable principles that set the tone for how you want to be right here, right now. So, my friend Peter says goals are about a destination, values are about a direction. Goals are about like where you want to go, values are about how I want to be right here, right now. And so, I highly recommend that you sit down. There's millions of values explorations you could print out online and come up with like 3 to 4 things that are core to who you are. And those things, no matter what, don't change because you can't change unless there's a changeless core inside of you. Does that make sense? So once you have those things, you know your purpose, I know what my values are, then you got to train your awareness to know where your head's at. And that's where tools we already talked about, like mindfulness, can be really beneficial. Because when you train your awareness, now you know where my thoughts, emotions, and like this is where my mind is anchored. So let's go back to Sir Chris Hoy. He said in an Olympic finals, he felt like he was going to die. But then he said, I would think about my hands gripping the steering wheel or my butt in the seat, my feet in the clips. What did he do? He shifted his attention to something he could take action on. Now, what can you do? He could take action in something that he was a directed behavior. For us, most of the time we're not in an Olympic finals. It's mostly interactions or a thought process, right? So now is when we take action anchored in our values. And then the last part about it is accountability. And I added this one. Um, you need a community. You needed some friends. They're going to call you on your stuff. Like you need to give people, maybe it's one person. And I know there's trust issues and we are a complex tapestry of events that are weaved together to make us who we are right now, right? We've all been hurt. We've all been let down. We've all been, but I have people in my life that I let in and then I tell the hardest things that I'm dealing with outside of my wife. And I give them the agency to call me on my stuff and also to be very vulnerable with. Um, and that's hard. That's a learned skill for some of us. And so if you can do these things, it's not going to happen overnight, but you're going to be able to respond to an ever-changing and chaotic world. Like the world around us can feel like a whirlwind, but they're going to be calm in the middle of that, So that's what it means to be psychologically flexible.